A plane full of passengers accidentally sank into the ocean, but the passengers on board were not injured, and not a single drop of seawater had seeped into the cabin. Despite this, the passengers on the plane did not feel relieved at all. Instead, they looked desperate, because at this depth of 100 meters underwater, the radio on the plane was no longer usable, and in this small cabin, their oxygen supply was gradually decreasing. Some people had already fainted. At that moment, the captain brought out a signal transmitter. If they could get it to the surface, they could send out a distress signal. This gave everyone a glimmer of hope again. For safety reasons, they decided that two people would carry out this plan. If one of them had an accident, the other could continue. So, the captain led another passenger to the plane's cabin door. They closed the steel door inside the cabin to prevent seawater from rushing in. Then they prepared to open the cabin door. But unexpectedly, the strong inertia directly knocked the passenger unconscious. But just as the captain was about to continue with the plan, the oxygen began to leak. There was no other choice. He had to drop the oxygen and quickly open the package. Then, with all his strength, he successfully swam to the surface. He didn't dare to rest and immediately climbed onto a life raft and pressed the distress signal. Sure enough, the fleet that was conducting exercises at sea detected the distress signal. After determining the location, they immediately sent a rescue ship. The captain was successfully rescued. Upon learning that there were still people alive in the sea, the captain of the ship immediately sent a rescue team to the bottom of the sea to save the others. But when the rescue team found the plane, they discovered that they didn't have enough people to carry out the rescue. Once they opened the cabin door, seawater would rush into the cabin. There was no other way. Everyone had to return to the surface and inform the captain of the situation. So they came up with a new rescue plan. They decided to lift the plane out of the water. Then the rescue team went back underwater again. They threaded a rope through the bottom of the plane, connected it to a huge balloon, and then attached an air hose. After everything was ready, everyone left the plane and quickly returned to the surface. With the captain's order, they quickly turned on the air pump. Soon the balloon was fully inflated, and the plane began to rise. In no time, the nose of the plane emerged from the water. Everyone quickly rushed over. They had to save the trapped passengers as soon as possible. But just as they were about to rescue the passengers and leave, the connecting straps at the tail of the plane suddenly all broke. This caused a female passenger to be thrown back into the plane. The team leader immediately followed her. But at this time, the plane began to sink, and seawater rushed in. So the team leader took the female passenger to the cockpit quickly. Then he opened the cabin door, pushed the female passenger out of the plane, and then jumped out himself. With the help of a helicopter, the two of them successfully escaped. But the huge passenger plane sank completely into the ocean.